Morning, everyone. My name's Megan. I'm the campaign manager for the Audience Agency in the Marketing Communications team. For audio description purposes, I'm a white woman, shoulder length, dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a black sweater. Co-hosting with me today is my colleague Samira. Can I ask you to introduce yourself, Samira?
Of course. Hello, I am Samira. I am the Service and Support Manager here at the Audience Agency. For audio description purposes, I am a white woman with brown hair that's pulled back at the moment with a headset on. And I have, I think we figured out the other day, they're hexagonal glasses. I always forget. So yes, it's lovely to meet you all.
Great stuff, thank you. Just before we get into the main bulk of the session, just a couple of notes. We are recording this session. We will send out that recording probably realistically at some point next week. We will edit it, add captions, etc., etc. So don't worry if you don't catch all the details today, that's absolutely fine. Likewise, we're also going to send out this set of slides here as well with all the links to all the various resources that we talk about as well. So again, don't worry if you miss anything. We will post the links in the chat, but if you need them as well, we will be sending them. Samira's just introduced herself in the chat, and if anyone else would like to, please do feel free. It's always lovely for us to have an idea of who's here beyond your Zoom screen name. But please do introduce yourself in the chat as we go through. I would say if you have questions, we're up against it with the clock today. We've got quite a lot to get through in quite a short space of time, but we absolutely welcome questions as we go through today. And we would suggest maybe just popping them in the chat. One of us will do our absolute best to pick them up as we go through. It might be appropriate to reply to you directly, or we might just stop and pause and mention it so that the whole room can hear the suggestion, the answer to the question. But if there are any questions that we can't get to, don't worry, we have noted them. We'll record the chats and we'll pick them up in the follow-up email that we send out after the session as well. So please do use the chat. We will do our very best to keep on top of it. It is quite a busy session, but we will answer as many as we can. So a quick outline of what we're going to cover today. This is the introduction to audience answers for specifically for organisations based in Scotland, working in Scotland. Myself and Samira are both based in Manchester, but we do have audience agency colleagues across the country, including Scotland. So we're well geographically spread, as it were. So we'll talk about what is audience answers, very fundamentally, and how it could help with the work that you're doing. We'll talk about audience answers for supporting your reporting to your funders. We'll get into the specifics of the actual tools that are available. Not all of them will be relevant to every organisation in the room. We're very aware of that. So please do take what you feel is relevant to you and leave the rest. That's fine. We're going to talk briefly about audience spectrum. This might be something that you're familiar with, or it might be completely new. We're going to assume it's completely new to everybody. So please don't worry if you know nothing. We'll do the very basics and then signpost you to some more resources if that's something of interest. And then we will suggest some next steps to follow up from this session very practically in terms of how to get set up. I'm loving seeing everyone introducing yourselves in the chat. That's lovely. Always little pop-up notifications are great. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over briefly to John from Creative Scotland, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you, and hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. I think probably most of you, I don't think I'll have met yet. So just to introduce myself, I head up the knowledge and research team at Creative Scotland. So we sort of cover all things research and data and reporting, kind of externally and up to back to Scottish Government, and picking up our kind of day-to-day statutory reporting requirements as a public funder. So yeah, we've been working with the Audience Agency now, some of you may be aware, for 5 or 6 years, just on audience analytics and audience tools, and providing that service to the creative sectors in Scotland. The tool is entirely free to use to organisations that are funded by Creative Scotland. There's been some development work to the tools, which I'm sure Megan and Samira will cover off on since we initially started using what was previously Audience Finder, now Audience Answers. So hopefully you'll find the tools useful and provide some insights that maybe you didn't have before, but hopefully also there's an opportunity for some kind of benchmarking and ability to help develop and analyse of your audience data needs. And yeah, I guess in terms of from our side, I'm sure this will be covered by Megan and Samira, but we will only really use the data in a kind of consolidated format, and primarily that will be used by us for various needs, but we'll feed some of that into Creative Scotland's KPIs around audience and audience numbers and levels, and use some of that as well for kind of advocacy purposes when dealing with Scottish Government and for reporting. So all of that data is all more at a kind of holistic, consolidated level. So we won't have any insight into any individual organisation's data. The tool was entirely to be used as and how is required at your organisation. I'll put my email address into the chat as well, just if you have any questions away from today's session, then do feel free to just drop me an email and I'll try and answer that as best I can. But yeah, nice to see you all, and I'll hand back to Megan and Samira.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Great. Without further ado, we will crack on. We are planning to end this session properly at 12, by the way, so if you do have other commitments, we will make sure you are in time for them. So just to introduce us as the Audience Agency, if you don't know us and you've not worked with us before, we work UK-wide. We're all about research, insight and data tools for the cultural sector. We're a non-profit. Our particular areas of expertise are in audience development, experience design, evaluation and participation. And we're all about taking a people-centred approach. So we're not just data nerds. We really believe in sharing that data in a way that is, people-centred and, real world and actionable and practical for people. So you may have worked with us before. We do provide this kind of range of data tools, but we also have a team of consultants who work on bespoke projects, and you may well have worked with us on some of those in the past as well. Specifically, though, talking about audience answers, which is, one aspect, major aspect of the Audience Agency's work. Audience answers is a sort of umbrella brand name for a set of tools and services that are all about helping you understand your audiences, but also identify potential new ones, and bringing in that human-centred idea again, learning how to best reach those new and returning audiences. It's designed to be applicable for all cultural and heritage organisations. Not everything will be applicable to all organisations, but we very much aim to make something applicable for all organisations, regardless of what art form you're working in, whether you're in an urban or a rural setting, whether you are performing arts, visual arts, heritage. We hope there's something there that will support you. And it's all designed by people who really know the sector. Most of us have worked in the sector, and particularly many of us have worked in marketing roles. So we kind of get it. We understand what it's like out there, as it were. But we are always very willing to take feedback as well. If something just isn't working for you or we can improve something, please let us know and tell us. That's really important to us. Specifically for organisations in Scotland, it's a slightly different service north of the border, because thanks to the funding that we've had from Creative Scotland for some time now, a lot of the services are available for free, that we do have to charge organisations outside of Scotland for to cover our costs. So many of you have already been using them. They've been available since 2019. And it's a fantastic resource, we hope anyway, and we hope people are finding it useful. But a difference for the new multi-year funding programme that begins soon is that organisations are now being really strongly encouraged and asked to sign up to Audience Answers to help gather those kind of big picture audience insights that Creative Scotland are asking for. So we will talk about specifically what that might look like for you, but fundamentally you're being asked if you are an audience-facing organisation and this is appropriate for you and the audiences you work with. We're asking you to sign up for either an Audience Answers survey or the Ticketing Insight service. You can do both, and many organisations find it really valuable to do both if that's appropriate for them. I would say if you've got any questions about whether you feel you perhaps you've got an audience that is just not right for surveying in the way that we offer, or perhaps you don't do ticket bookings in the way that we're going to talk about here. In the first instance, please do get in touch with Creative Scotland and they can have that conversation with you. Rather than with us, we don't have all the kind of context and background knowledge in quite the same way. So very much encourage you to get in touch with Creative Scotland and then come back to us with your kind of setup request from there. So audience answers, it helps you understand your current audiences. Things like location, how did they hear about you? Demographics about who that audience is. But it also gets into more sort of behavioural stuff as well, like what do these people like to do with their leisure time when they're not coming to your organisation or engaging with your work? How much money do they spend? How much disposable income do they have? And what other sorts of arts and culture do they engage with or perhaps not engage with? Equally important as well. We can find out about motivations and my favourite one on there. Did they have a good time? What do they think? Are you providing a good experience with people as well? That's obviously crucial. So this understanding of your current audiences obviously helps you do things like target your marketing more effectively. You know who that core audience is. You know what they like. You know how to press their buttons and speak to them in the right way. So you can foster that loyalty and get that core audience coming back. You can understand how to give your audiences a really good experience. Forgive me, we do use audience and visitors interchangeably. Some of you will probably use visitors more commonly than audience. We mean both by the same term. So forgive me for saying audience. I also mean visitors if that's more appropriate. And obviously it helps you support your reporting to funders and other stakeholders, evidence your impact, show who you're reaching and how you're reaching them and the kind of the positive story that you want to tell there. On the flip side, this service also helps you understand who your potential audiences are. So thinking about who you're not reaching, but who is on your doorstep, who is in your catchment area. Are there particular groups that you're not engaging with that you'd like to be? Are there particular groups that perhaps you want to engage with more deeply? And it also helps you understand a little bit about what the barriers might be for those particular groups as well, going back to the behavioural aspects as well that we're thinking about. So obviously that helps you think about how to develop new audiences, how to grow income, if that's a core objective for you. It helps you identify your underserved communities. Again, that's an objective for you. This will help you get into that. And as before, it'll help evidence the need for your work and make a case to those funders and senior managers by saying, look, this is the community we're in. This is what it looks like. This is what they need for us to engage with them. So our tools, very practically, we're going to talk quite a lot about ticketing data insights and audience surveys, the top two things on there today. We will touch on population profiles, tiering reports and audience spectrum. But we will get into those, but I just want to draw your attention to the last one on that list as well. We do have a really, really extensive range of resources that are all about our kind of big picture research into what's going on in the sector. So if you ever want to kind of get a sense of my audiences are doing this, is that normal? Does that align with a trend that we're seeing nationwide? We publish a lot of research and we are about to publish more Scotland specific research as well. So I definitely recommend keeping an eye out on that kind of free resource that's there as well, just to, set things in context a little bit of what you're seeing. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Samira here, if that's okay, to talk specifically about the ticketing insight side of things and surveys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Megan. So we're going to kind of talk about two areas of the platform today, the main two, which are ticketing insights and survey insights. So as Megan said, we're going to start with the ticketing insights. What you're able to see within the platform, and I will show you a little bit of a demo site of it in a second, is your key ticketing and sales metrics that are pulled in through your ticketing data. What local authorities your bookers are coming from, the audience spectrum profile of your bookers. Now, audience spectrum may or may not be something that you've been aware of in the past. It will remain a little bit of an enigma for now. Megan will do a larger portion on it later on. I will run through it ever so quickly when we look at the platform in a second. But no, it will be very useful to you. That's the main takeaway. And then on a monthly basis, you will receive reports on timing, frequency, proportion of first-time visitors, and group dynamics of your bookings through our Booker Behaviour Report, which is sent out via email on around the 8th of every month. It's a manual send that my colleague Rachel does, and it's whenever we're in the office around the 8th. So expect it in the first couple of weeks of the month. Megan, could you just click onto the next slide for me, please? Thank you. How does the ticketing service work? So basically, we connect to your ticketing system within Audience Answers. If you are a Spectrix, TicketSource, TicketSolve, or Monad client, you will be able to have an automated connection between ourselves and Audience Answers. If you are on another platform, ticketing platform of any nature, it is likely that we will be able to connect to your platform on a manual files basis, which basically means that you have a set of files that we ask you to set up on your system, and you send it to us on a basis that is what you choose to. So either it's on a normally quarterly basis or a yearly basis. We would recommend quarterly, or monthly if you want that data in more regularly. Once you send the files through, our very clever ticketing team will upload them into Audience Answers for you, and then you can view your data just as anybody with an automated connection. So it's a little bit more work on both ends, but you will be able to see your data within there. I would recommend, if you are on any of the other platforms outside of Spectrix, TicketSource, TicketSolve, or Monad, just contacting us at you can email scotland@theaudienceagency.org or answers@theaudienceagency.org. Either one of those is absolutely fine. It is all anonymized, the data that we receive, so you don't have to worry about information being shared about your customers or your visitors coming through your doors. We see everything as a little number that is related to their initials and their postcode. We couldn't make sense of who it was. I couldn't make sense of who I was, I don't think, off of that. So you'd be absolutely fine. And from there, you're able to then see everything in the overview dashboard for as many people within your team as you wish to. You can have as many people or as little people on the dashboard as you wish. There is no limit. So ask for however many signups that you wish for. What is the next slide, please, Megan? Thank you very much. So here you go, how to set them up. These systems extract automatically. So again, Spectrix, TicketSolve, Monad, and TicketSource. And then any others, you need to send that through to us in a manual files manner. Manual files manner, there we go. If for some reason you cannot meet what we call the specification for the manual files, sometimes that does happen, mainly to do with Eventbrite. Unfortunately, we can't work with any organisation that works with Eventbrite on their ticketing, simply because they don't provide the data that we need to be able to put things into the system. But if you're on something like that, but you need to get data in, we would recommend collecting via an audience survey instead. If you don't feel that that's possible for any reason, John and Bernie have put a really useful email into the chat, which is multiyear@creativescotland.com. If you just drop them an email, they'll be able to assist you in how you can collect data and what's going to be the best for you. And please email that email address rather than ourselves, as we're not the ones with all of the knowledge and we're not your funders. Creative Scotland are, and they'll be able to provide a really useful chain for you if you need to refer back to that in the future for any change of staffing or anything at your business or at Creative Scotland. Cool. So without further ado, I am going to take over the screen, if that's okay, Megan, and we will have a look and see what the platform looks like. Is that showing? No, not yet. Is it showing now? Megan, can you see the
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It decided to have a little bit of a meltdown on me for a second there. So sorry, guys. So this is the overview dashboard. There will be a lot of you on here who have never seen this before, but there will be a lot of you who have also seen this before. So sorry, we're going to run through it very quickly. This is our test area. So it looks a little bit different in the front end. what you would see on a day-to-day basis. But basically, this is everything that you're going to see. So you can kind of take this as gospel. It doesn't look much different, aside from the fact that you'll be logged in. This is the front dashboard. So when you log in, what you'll be able to see is your ticketing on the left-hand side and your surveying on the right. If you do one or the other will be grayed out for you. We're going to first look at the ticketing dashboard, which is found here. I've opened it up so that it was easier to get to. But this is the overview dashboard. What we look at to start with is a default date range, which is the last full quarter versus the same quarter of the previous year. So for this example, we're doing it monthly for this, but it's normally October to December, I think, is the normal one at the moment. And then it would be the same for 2023. You're able to change this by clicking the edit button here, and doing anything up to around a year's data normally makes the most sense. Outside of that, it can get quite overwhelming to look at data more than a year out, mainly because the figures are so large and you're not kind of getting that granularity. Now, absolutely, if you want to look at things from 18 months ago, feel free. But as your funding year starts now, maybe just stick to, April to April. That's not a problem at all. When you've configured your dashboard, you'll see that your primary is in this like tealy blue colour and then a darker teal, I like to call it, for the comparison. Further down, the first thing that you're going to come to is your sales data. As you can see, we've got our primary here. There we go, October to December. So your primary here, your comparison, and then we benchmark your data across 10 similarly sized organisations of that time period. So those 10 similarly sized organisations, it's really important to note, are going to change every time you change your dashboard configuration. That's because we're looking at organisations who have got a similar income to you, who have got a similar number of bookers. They will not just be Scottish organisations, they will be across the UK, but it's good to compare yourself not only to your peers within your nation, but outside of your nation as well. More across the UK, because there are so many arts organisations and we want you to be able to look at yourselves and compare yourselves nationally, not just within Scotland. We don't tell you who those organisations are, as because when you change that time period, those organisations change. And we're not in the game of pitting you against each other in competition. It's not about you looking for your greatest competitor and comparing yourselves to them. It's looking at how you are going versus the rest of the sector. And that's really important. Don't look at the comparison as something that you have to be reaching. If internally you're reaching the goals that you need to reach and what your funder is expecting you to do, that's great. 10 out of 10, pat on the back, that's wonderful. If you want to reach that a little bit further, please use the comparisons as and how you wish, but please don't think that you're failing if your figures are completely off versus what you're being compared to. That's not what it's there for at all. It's just there to do some friendly benchmarking. The main one that I like to draw attention to is the average ticket yield. So we have bookers, that's your unique bookers. So it's only every person who's booked once. We're not doing return bookers here. We've got income, tickets, and then average ticket yield. Average ticket yield is really, really good, particularly if you're in the business of looking at changing your pricing structure, and or we're all in that point at the moment where we're looking at, everything's a bit of a struggle. We don't want to pass this on to our customers, but also maybe we need to. This is a really good way for you to look at the comparison and see whether or not you're charging more or less, and whether or not that's a conversation you feel comfortable having with your board. It's a really good bit of data for you to go, we're undercharging for what our product is, or we're overcharging and maybe we need to just think about, keeping it at a cap at the moment. It's a really good little insight that you can use as and when you wish to. Then further down, here you go, you've got your booking behaviour report, so you can request that en masse if you wish to. I wouldn't recommend it, they're quite overwhelming. Just wait until you get your first one. But this is included within your package for free. Normally, for English organisations to pay £1,440 for the pleasure of these reports that you're getting for free. So it's a great little tool to have. And then further down, we're going to look at audience spectrum. Now, this is, in short, a segmentation model made for the UK cultural sector. It's really cool. It is basically 10 segments of most engaged to least engaged across the UK that you can look at your audiences within those metrics. Megan will explain a little bit more for you later on how it works and what we do with it and what you can do with it. But essentially, in your dashboard, you will have this information that is related to your ticketing data and your audiences segmented in such manner. Within there, you'll see your audiences now in the yellow, red, and tealy blue. And then underneath that, you're going to have everybody in the catchment area. So your catchment area is what we have as 50% of the bookers that are coming through your doors. And the reason that we use 50% is because we see those typically, obviously it's not everybody, particularly those touring organisations who ticket their own data, but typically your 50% of your catchment, the ones that live within a 50% radius of your organisation, are going to be what we call your bread and butter audiences. So the ones who are going to come back regularly, they're going to be the ones that are coming to 3, 4, 5 shows a season. They love you. Then you're going to have the people who live slightly further away, who are coming for those one-off events, those special things that you're doing. And the reason that we're using only the 50% is because that's what we want. We want you to be comparing to who is always going to come through your doors. Everybody else is kind of a one-off. You're going to get them every so often, but not that 50% are going to be what you want to keep on side, retain. So as you can see here, this fake organisation, because this is all fake data, are really overperforming on all of their audience spectrum, really, apart from in the lower engaged categories here. And again, it's not about pitting you against that 50% and you going, oh, we're really underperforming. If this was your graph and you were looking at it and going, this is brilliant, fantastic, don't change anything. What you're doing is doing everything correctly. If you're looking at this and going, there's a bit of work to do here, what you can do is use these little buttons on the left-hand side, to learn more about those segments and what you can do to potentially draw them in a little bit more. Or if you're looking at this and wanting to retain, similarly, have a look at what you can do to keep retaining them. It's a very useful tool and it gives you all the answers that you need. Underneath, there is the audience spectrum profile of your bookers. So this is a report that you can pull based on your segments. And just for those who have just been introduced to audience spectrum, the sub-segments, because there isn't just 10 categories, there's actually 20. We were holding that back from you there. But you're able to look at everything in much more detail within that audience spectrum report. You don't have to use these reports and they're not crucial to your funding, but they are really useful in your understanding of your audiences. So don't get overwhelmed by the amount of reports that are available to you. Use what you see is going to be beneficial and make sure that you're following what your funder is saying, which is make sure that you're reporting this data to them as and how they want to. But all of this is here to help you to keep your audiences and customers coming through the door and make sure that they're happy. Underneath, you've got information about who your top local non-attenders are. So who is not coming that's local that you maybe could get through the doors. Who are those potential audiences that are just out of your reach and you're not quite getting yet? And then underneath this is the final bit of your dashboard that you're going to be getting, which is where your audiences are coming from. So again, it's 50%, the distance 50% of your bookers live within is going to be what we're using here, those bread and butter audiences. And we have what your primary is. So now that comparison, so from a year ago, the same period from a year ago. And then we also still do a pre-COVID reference. The reason being is there are still quite a few organisations who have done some renovation work over the past few years and are only now just opening their doors again after COVID, which feels like 5 minutes ago, but was actually 5 years. And what they're doing is using this data to start understanding where they are now versus pre-COVID. It can be really useful. If it's not going to be useful for you, feel free to ignore it. That's absolutely fine. But we can see here that within a year, this organisation have increased by 2 kilometres, which is amazing. But again, it's not for you to pit yourself against where you were a year ago. If you know you've had a particularly hard year, look at this and go, we're still doing okay. We've still got 50% of bookers coming through the doors. That's not a problem at all. And then the final report that you get within your package as standard is the local authorities report. So that compares the geographical regions that your bookers are travelling from. And it's really useful if you are kind of sitting in between local authorities, for example, or you're really striving to do work within specific local authorities, having a look and seeing where you're hitting the most or where most bookers are coming from could be a really beneficial way, particularly if you're a static organisation who's looking to do a tour. This could be a really nice way to do it. And or if you want to do a lot of community work, so for your learning and engagement teams, this report could be really useful as well, about what schools to go into, where to go into, that kind of thing. So you're able to click on that at any point and get that report. And that is the first part of our dashboard. Megan, can you take back over the screen and take me back to the presentation, please? Thank you. Have we had any questions in the chat? I've seen you typing away furiously.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up, there's a sort of common theme of people saying, oh, I don't think this will work for me. I don't ticket like this. I don't have a ticketing system like this. That's fine. You might find that an audience survey is a better tool for gathering data on your audiences, and we will talk about that in a sec. If neither of those work for you, that's the moment to have that conversation with Creative Scotland about what is appropriate and what they would like to do for you. But perhaps a survey might work for you better. So don't feel you have to do this if it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for any organisations who don't ticket, we'll go into it in a little while, but we do have touring reports. So earlier on, I think it was Mari mentioned that they used to use ShowStats, but unfortunately, as I said to Mari in the chat, ShowStats was retired in 2023. So that's not a platform that we have anymore. In place of that is our touring reports, which organisations in Scotland are entitled to up to 4 of those for free per year. So that's per cycle year. So between April and March of every year, you're able to get 4 of those reports. Each report can have up to 8 venues within it. So we can look at splitting data however you wish to. And just have a chat with us about how you want to run it, and we can make a note of that and run it as and how you wish. But essentially, that's in place of ShowStats at this time, and it does provide you with all of the same information that you were going to get from ShowStats if ShowStats is something that you remember and wish and long to come back. So that is that question. And now we're going to move on to audience answer surveys. This is my favourite part of the platform. I am biased, but I love surveys. They are a really valuable insight into what your audiences are thinking about your organisation. If you think about our platform as split 50-50, your ticketing is going to provide 50% of your insight, and your surveys are going to provide the other 50%. The thing that I like to think about, though, is 2 nets. If you have a ticketing system and one person has booked for 4 people for the thing that you've got on, you're going to get the data of that one individual booker through. So we're going to understand that single booker. But if they've paid or they've booked tickets for something where they're bringing somebody from outside of their household with them, you're not going to understand those people that are also coming through your doors. And that's where a survey can come in, and it doesn't work all the time, but what you'll find is if you are approaching people through a survey, either a post-visit e-survey, which is sent obviously to the booker, or if you're doing a survey on site, which we will talk about in a second, you're able to capture the information of that additional person who attended. You're able to capture their thoughts and their feelings about their experience, and that's really insightful data. So that's why surveying is really useful, because you're not only going to get the information of the booker if you have a ticketing system, but you're potentially going to be able to get the information from all of the party, as long as they're over the age of 16, with a survey. So what we do is we have done is create a robust and expertly designed by our research team survey, which has the flexibility to add questions as and how you choose. This survey has been approved by Creative Scotland, and it is made up of a series of attitudinal and demographic questions. Megan, could you flick to the next screen for me, please? Thank you very much. As it says here, it is a standard survey. There is a standard set of core questions which address those attitudinal and demographic questions that all organisations have to use, not just in Scotland, but across Wales and England as well. It allows us to benchmark on your behalf and provide really insightful data to funders like Creative Scotland. And that set of core questions, you're able to then add additional questions to. We have a very large question bank of additional questions. So after this, and when you receive the follow-up information from Megan, I would recommend putting some time aside with a cup of tea or coffee or beverage of your choice and having a look through those additional questions. The idea is that the core questions ask what the funder needs to know, and then the additional questions ask a little bit about what you need to know. If you've got things that you're wanting to improve, you could ask about your cafe. If you are potentially thinking about changing up your car park, you could ask a question about that. Within your survey already are questions about travel, which is part of the core questions that Creative Scotland are asking you to run this year. So you don't need to worry about that as an option anymore, but everything else is available for you to look at. If you look at that question bank and go, there's nothing here for us, but we want to ask some more questions, you can do. There is, you can add bespoke questions, but that would be an additional charge. So you wouldn't be able to add those for free. There are a choice of collection methods that we have. You can choose to survey via a post-visit e-survey, so sending it out after an event, if that is something that you're able to do to your customers. You can also choose to survey face-to-face in form of a tablet or a paper survey. All of these options are available. We can also provide a link for you to create a QR code if that would be useful for some of those festivals out there. That's always a good one. So they're your 4 collection methods. What we do is we work with you to set that survey up. Myself and my colleague Francesca, who's also on this call, will work with you to set up the survey, make sure that we've got all of the information that we need, and then we will create a survey for you and send over a preview link. Once you've agreed that that preview link is exactly what you were looking for, we will then send you the live links to send out to your audiences. And once you get responses through, you will then be able to log into your dashboard and see a report like the picture on this right-hand side here, which we will look at in a second. And that will allow you to explore the insights on your audience answers dashboard and look at who's coming through your doors and give you that information that you need ready to report to Creative Scotland, but most importantly for you to understand first. Maggie, could you flick to the next slide for me, please? Thank you very much. As a minimum, we ask for you to aim for 380 responses. That might sound like a lot, but it is a soft target. And basically where that number comes from is my colleagues in the research team who have conducted a lot of research to find out what the sweet spot for statistical robustness is. So when you collect 380 responses, what we say is that you've got a 95% confidence that what you're reading about your audiences is correct. Obviously, there is a 5% margin for error. We're always going to have a 5% margin for error, but 380 is the sweet spot, the easiest sweet spot for statistical robustness. If you can't reach that, don't worry. All you have to do is just think it's not as statistically robust as it could be, but it's given me a good idea about your audiences. And if you're a very large organisation who will easily get 380 responses within 10 shows, then your next big goal would be 1,000. So in terms of responses, there are going to be some organisations who can reach that, but others 380. Just keep that in your minds. Create some healthy competition between members of staff about who can do, the most on a tablet in a day. I hear some wild stories about things that people do to get to that number. So yes, and finally, I'm going to stop wittering in a second, but firstly show you the dashboard. So Megan, I'm just going to share my screen again, if that's okay. Thank you very much.
You set yourself up with that, Samira, just to pick up on some questions in the chat. We've had lots of questions about additional questions about questions. You get 3 as standard, 3 additional. I'm correct in that, aren't I, Samira?
That's correct, yeah.
3 as standard as part of this free offer. If you'd like more, there will be costs, but we can talk to you on an individual basis of what that looks like. Likewise, a lot of people asking about accessible formats. Again, let us know what you need and we'll go from there. We're very happy to support as best we can.
Yep, absolutely. Myself and Francesca will be happy to help. Just drop us an email. Again, answers@theaudienceagency.org or scotland@theaudienceagency.org. They come into the same place, so we will find you in one of those folders. And we will help you as best as we can. So this is what your survey report looks like. It is, again, all fake data. We don't have an organisation called Punch and Judy Theatres. We've just made this up for the basis of this demo. On the left-hand side here, you can see that there is a date range that you can choose. So if you've got a specific event on that you're wanting to look at the data for, you can do. If you're wanting to look at the whole year, you can do. Here it shows you the date that the survey has run to and from. And then underneath it shows you how many respondents you've had in that time frame. You are able to view survey details and then also download a CSV of your data. So this survey report will only show you what we call the core questions, which we've kind of spoken through. We will, in the follow-up email, provide a link to what a survey looks like with just the core questions within it. It will come across as like a tablet. It will look like a tablet survey, basically, and it will appear as you will see things. If you are to survey with us or when you survey with us throughout this year. And you can have a look at those questions. Again, these questions that are in this report cannot be changed, cannot be removed for any reason, as they are there for benchmarking purposes. But if you were to add additional questions to your survey, one of those three, you will find the information in that CSV that you're able to download here. Underneath, you were able to jump to a theme. So every question has a theme attached to it. So if you, when you get to know these questions very well, because you will, you're able to jump to themes to kind of have a look at the data on a case by case, theme by theme basis. But for now, we won't do that because that's going to be very overwhelming and confusing. So we're just going to have a look at what one question looks like. And they all look exactly the same. So don't worry about what's further down the report. One, you will see it in time once you start to collect data. And two, it looks exactly the same. So there's nothing to worry about there. At the top, you're going to see what group it belongs to, what theme it belongs to, then what question group it belongs to. It's a little bit confusing, but things are in themes and groups. You don't need to worry about that. It's more on our side of things. If we ask you for the group, you'll be able to find it very easily. Then you get the question. Your name of your organisation would fit in where Punch and Judy Theatre is. You're not going to get any reports that say Punch and Judy Theatre on them. And then underneath is whether or not it's a single choice, multiple choice, or a free text question. It's telling you how the survey respondent has responded. Then you have a bar and a chart, a bar and a graph, that you can choose to view the data within. We include both because we find that people are different learners in different ways, and this is a very easy way for you to be able to kind of look at data and interpret it very quickly. It is also very good if you are doing any funding reporting to your board or otherwise, because in this corner here, you are able, with this hamburger menu, to download either the chart or the graph as and how you wish to, and upload it into any reporting of your choice and claim it as your own. We don't charge you for that pleasure. You are able to do that as and how you wish. In the top right-hand corner, is the question code. So if at any point you've got a question about your survey report or a question about your CSV file, for example, you think the data might not be coming through, things look a little bit odd, we may ask you for the question code, and that can be found in the top right-hand corner. It just helps us as a team narrow down what question you're questioning us about. Take a drink, however many times I've said question in this call. At the bottom here, you're able to see how many respondents have answered the question above. Then next to that is how many people haven't responded to that question. Now, particularly with the demographic questions, some people may choose not to respond to them. They have the choice not to respond. That's free choice. They may not feel comfortable. They might not have an answer. They might not want to give it to you, and that's all okay. The reason this is really useful, though, is if you are choosing to have members of your team survey individuals at your venue or at your event, so they're doing field working. If you're seeing that there are a large number of respondents who aren't answering a specific demographic question, it may be that you need to have a chat with the team and say, are you comfortable asking such a question? Because we are all human. Asking somebody for their age can feel quite scary, particularly if they have a particularly bad experience. And so asking these questions of your staff is really useful to, one, make sure that their training's right, but two, make sure that you're getting the information that you need as an organisation to fulfil your funding. It may just be that there's been a stream of people who just really don't want to give you their age, and that is completely fine. But it always helps for you to be able to stay on top of that surveying. Additionally, if you're doing a post-visit e-survey, it may just be that you need to include a little bit of text in that email before they click the link to say this information is really important to us, and we'd really appreciate any information that you can provide, even if some of the questions feel a bit intrusive. So yes, that's why we include that information there. And finally, if you are one of those organisations who absolutely exceeds that 380 target, I'm sure all of you will, you can view questions individually. So particularly useful when we look kind of a little bit further down at some of the questions where you're going to get, how did you find out about a specific exhibition? This organisation have had 1,322 responses. And as much as we'd like to put all of those responses into this report, it would crash it. So instead, we just let you view that question individually on a separate page, and you can still do all of the same things like that hamburger menu, but that might be quite a long report if you're putting a picture of that in there. So maybe think about that. So this is the report. This is what it looks like. It's very simple. It's very easy to read. Have we got any questions in the chat, Megan?
Not that I've not addressed as we've been going through, I don't think, no.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So that's, I think, my section over. Megan, could you give me the screen back, or put the screen back on you, please? I hope that was useful for everybody. There's a lot to get your head around, so please don't worry if this is all a bit overwhelming. We will address it very quickly, I promise.
Thanks, Mira. Yeah, I think probably picked up the theme in the chat is please talk to us if you feel, how does this work for me? If you really feel it doesn't work for you because of the types of audiences you're working for, in whatever way that is, please do have that conversation with Creative Scotland. Just check they're happy with, perhaps you might be exempt from doing a survey. Perhaps there might be ways we can make the survey work for you. So please don't feel overwhelmed or daunted by this. Just have that conversation with us, with Creative Scotland as well. We haven't got a lot of time left, so I'm going to really quickly touch on a couple of other things aside from the ticketing and surveys side of things. There are some reports available for free for touring companies. We've had a couple of people in the chat sort of pick up on this. We don't do our own ticketing. We tour to venues and ticket through their box offices. We can create reports for you because we, in many instances, can access that ticket data through that receiving house's box office, and we can create a report for you that collates all of that. So we can provide a single report for a tour that summarises your audience, the metrics that we've discussed in the ticketing dashboard, the audience spectrum profile, and we can provide that in a report for you. You can get up to 4 of those each year free of charge. Again, it's something that people south of the border are paying for, so definitely worth taking up if you have the opportunity and it sounds like it'll work for you. And we'll send out the links to how you would book one of those as well. We also have some population profile reporting available. These are really nifty little reports. They're bespoke to the area that you're in. They are a paid for report, but it's just worth highlighting something we offer. And they just give you that overview of who is in your area, the demographics, the profile, the levels of cultural engagement on your doorstep and what's going on. You can define the boundaries of that report however you like. You can buy them at different levels, different amounts of data that they have in them, different areas. So well worth having a look at. We have just got some new example versions of these reports as well, which again, we'll send out in a follow-up so you can have a look at what on earth we're talking about with these, but they're really valuable reports. I'm going to skip over this. I'll come back at the end because I really want to get onto audience spectrum. Yay, finally we get there. A little bit of a whistle-stop tour of audience spectrum here. Again, many of you perhaps might be familiar with audience spectrum and maybe using it in your sort of day-to-day analysis, planning, thinking about audiences. But for those who aren't, or anyone who wants a refresher, it's fundamentally a segmentation. It's a segmentation tool that we use across our services. It's very widely used across the cultural sector, England, Wales and Scotland. And it segments the population by lots of demographic factors, but also, most importantly, their engagement with arts, culture and heritage. So it's giving you all of that kind of broad information that hopefully is useful to you. It's done at postcode level. So every household has an audience spectrum segment attributed to it. A fun game is always to find out what your household is and then to see if you agree with it or not. But it does mean that you can then apply the segmentation to both your own audiences, but also to the wider population. So you can look at the people you're reaching and also the people that you're not, and look at their characteristics. What's the point of that? What could you do with a segmentation like this of either your audience or your population? Just some examples here. People are doing loads of different things with it. We've got lots of case studies available to have a look at as well on Audience Answers. But you could be making a case to funders because you have an understanding now of who in your area is less engaged with culture and what the actual need is and what that looks like in terms of hard numbers. It could help you place your advertising in the right places, whether that's out of home or digital. You could be looking at, where am I going to find the people who are my core bookers, who are definitely going to come, who definitely should be interested in this ballet or whatever it is you're putting on. You know exactly where to put that advertising based on geography and audience spectrum profile. You can increase the return on your campaigns. You could build a mailing list by segment and then really target your message to what you know that segment are going to be motivated by. What's the thing that's going to really float their boat, and you can hit them directly with that message. You could use it to help increase spend per head. We've got examples of organisations that are doing this by sending people targeted offers that they know they are more likely to respond to based on what we know about their behaviour. So that may work for, some of those might be appropriate to you, some of them may not, but just some examples of the sorts of things you could do with that profiling and handling. This is what it looks like in practice. There are 10 segments. There are also a further 20 sub-segments, but we haven't got time to go into those, so we won't. But you feel free to go and explore them. They range from the metroculturals on the far left-hand side there, who are most highly engaged, go to everything, do everything, affluent, super engagers, through to the sort of 4 on the right-hand side who are considered less engaged generally with arts and culture. Everyone's very enthused by the metroculturals and wants to find ways of reaching them, but do have to manage expectations a little bit because there aren't an awful lot of them out there outside of London, sadly. There are some in Edinburgh. There's a sizable population in Edinburgh, but really they are not a dominant group. Certainly where I am in Manchester, there's like 3 of them, I think. So they're not always a great group to be focused on, sadly, unless you're in London. But each of those segments has a really detailed profile like this. Again, this will be very tiny on your screens, and we don't expect you to read the detail on that at all. You can have a look at these after the session. But there are these really detailed profiles for each segment, which tell you the characteristics of the segment, where you can find them, what motivates them, what they're interested in, what they're doing online, what sort of advertising they respond to, and also what the kind of barriers for them might be as well. Is it cost? Is it perception? Oh, the arts aren't for me. Is it travel? Is it distance? Is it family? There are all sorts of things that might be potential barriers to people, and this will help you understand what those are specifically for each segment. There's a free mapping tool available at audience-spectrum.org. And this is just a really good kind of way in to starting to think about audience spectrum in the context of exactly where you are. So it's an interactive map that you can move around the country and you can zoom in and out. It's based on postcode area. So the screenshot here shows a postcode, I believe, in South Wales, yes, Cardiff. And it will give you the proportion of the population in that area that falls into each of those segments. So here you've got a very high proportion of the population are in the experience seekers segment, but you can also sort of see what the other segments are there as well. It's quite unusual for there to be one group like that that's very dominant in an area. But this is great fun. I can lose hours to this. I have lost hours to playing on this map. It's a really nice, easy to use way into starting to understand what's going on very locally for you, and you can zoom in on exactly where you are as well. So if you're thinking that sounds cool, how do I do it? How do I actually get that profile of my audience or of the local population, or both? If you want to profile your audiences, you might recall when Samira was showing the Ticketing Insights dashboard, there's a chart of the breakdown by audience spectrum type. That shows your audiences profiled by audience spectrum, but also the comparison to your 50% catchment area as well. So you're starting to see where you're under and over represented in each segment. So if you are signed up for the ticketing services, that's really easy. It's right there for you. It will just be there every time you log in as well to have a look at. If you don't have the ticketing insights set up, or you can't set up ticketing insights, or perhaps you just don't sell tickets, that's fine. We can still provide a profile of your audience as long as you have some postcodes for us. So if you are collecting postcodes in some way from your audience or your visitors, whether that's through a survey or perhaps a feedback card that people fill in when they're done, or sign-ups to your mailing list, however you find a way to collect those postcodes, you can just send us those postcodes and we will send back a breakdown of your audience, and we can compare it to a local population as well for you. So you can get a snapshot of your audience. It won't be live like it is in the Ticketing Insights dashboard, but you'll get that kind of initial snapshot very readily as well. If you want to look at the local population on the flip side versus just your audience, you've got the map that we just showed you just now. That's a really good way in and a starting point. It's a little bit limited because obviously it's all defined by postcode boundary. So if you want to look at a more bespoke population area, 20 minutes drive from my art gallery or 3 miles from my theatre, whatever it is, whatever you want to look at, that's when one of those population profile reports will come in, where you ask us to profile a particular area for you, and we will produce a profile of just the people who live within that very bespoke boundary that you have. So we have come to the end